Kyle's famous! Hello everyone and welcome back to Kyle is Famous. I'm GoodKhaos, and I'll leave a link for the other episodes up. I want to say there. Could be over there. Probably there though. Check those out. They're hilarious. Kyle wakes up. He is famous. Kyle's the host of the most popular talk show in recent memory, Stay Up Late with Kyle. Stay Up Late with Kyle has grown in popularity quickly in the last year, and the public has noticed. Inside has called Kyle a most excellent dumpy white man. Top Tech noted that Kyle is inspiring youth to explore STEM fields. Most other talk shows are dedicated to discussing Kyle and his personal details. Most online videos are best of clips taken from Kyle's latest broadcast. The eye of the world is upon Kyle. Tonight is Kyle's most important guest interview yet. Stay Up Late with Kyle will be featuring Rachel May. She's kind and lovely philanthropist. She's dear to the hearts of many. This interview requires preparation. Kyle cracked his eyes open knowing that today is his last chance to prepare for the interview. Kyle has 30 hours left. He must choose his actions wisely. Messed Up Brain Spike has told me to take a bottle of lard to the studio, and that's gonna get us something. And we're gonna do that first, because what else am I gonna do? Kyle decided to stay put and wither away. Kyle successfully withered away and died. Shucks!
For sure!
Kyle is now a ghost. This does not relieve him of his responsibilities. Get out of bed anyways. Kyle exited his bed and took a quick glance around the bedroom. Kyle opened the closet. It was dark and he could only really see his hanging shirts. Choose an outfit. Kyle decided to take some time to choose the perfect outfit, knowing how important his appearance is. We're gonna wear jeans and swimming goggles. Kyle decided on a fashion-forward, casual style. He could barely see out of the goggles. Kyle ripped his page out of the notebook and got up from his desk. Back to desk. Kyle made his way back to the desk and sat down. We didn't need to be a ghost to get into the pantry, did we?
You're stupid.
Check the drawer. Kyle opened up the side drawer on his desk and grabbed one of the items stored there. We cannot see in the closet. Flashlight will let us see in the closet. Think about it. That's later. That's later!
Okay.
Small key. Kyle grabbed the small key he kept in his desk. Back to desk. Kyle wanted to access the pantry, but found it was locked with a small keyhole. Unlocked with small key. The pantry door lock creaked as if it hadn't moved for years, but eventually opened. Look in pantry. Instead of an assortment of canned goods and grains, Kyle's pantry stored his massive amounts of bottled lard. That's so gross. Grab a bottle of lard! Kyle grabbed a bottle of lard and stashed it on his person for later use. Back to kitchen. Kyle walked to the center of the kitchen. Open fridge. Eat condiments. Kyle started to grab condiments from the fridge, squirting them into his mouth with both hands. The rate at which ketchup, soy sauce, and other items entered Kyle's mouth soon overrode his ability to swallow. Why? Kyle spewed the excess condiments across the kitchen, covering the furniture and walls. Kyle continued until all the condiments had been emptied. Kyle hurried to the set. Per normal, he ceased to be a ghost before he arrived. Sitting across from his host chair was a glamorous woman with an air of genuinity. As Kyle approached her, Rachel looked up and smiled. "Good evening, Kyle," she said, looking him in the eyes. "I've been looking forward to being here." Kyle responded. Answer politely, because we might as well. "And I as well, Rachel," answered Kyle, extending his hand in greeting. "You are most welcome guest." Shake hands. After other mild exchange of pleasantries, Kyle and Rachel were prompted to take their places for the broadcast. A moment after seating, the studio lights brightened and the cameras clicked on. Start broadcast. "Good evening, everyone," said Kyle, looking at the camera. "Welcome back to Stay Up Late with Kyle," introduced Rachel. "Tonight, I have the pleasure of interviewing the most lovely Rachel May, who needs no more introduction." Kyle motioned to Rachel, who smiled and waved at the camera. "Hello, Kyle," she said. "I'm glad to be here." No! "Well, I'm sure we'll have lots to discuss, so we might as well dive right in," said Kyle. "Drink lard." I read the first line.
Why? Why?
Why? Dive right into this bottle, that is. Kyle pulled out the bottle of lard, bit the top off and chugged it.
Bruh.
Kyle's body rejected the lard. He began to spew chunks of the lard and digestive fluid in every direction. Everything within a 10-foot radius was immediately covered, Rachel included. Kyle continued to vomit. Rachel bravely fought to stay seated amidst the vomit, hoping to save the show from disaster. Unfortunately, Kyle's vomit had covered all of the cameras. There was no broadcast. Kyle finished spewing eventually. The broadcast was not recoverable. All present were sent home to try again another day. As Kyle got home, he made a mental note to refill his lard supply. The end! Kyle consumed. Oh. I want to see if we can do anything with the flashlight. I don't know where. Kyle grabbed the flashlight, but after jiggling the switch, he found out it was out of batteries. Now we're gonna go back to the room, exit the hallway, and then we're going to check locked door. Kyle walked into the small hallway that connects the rooms of his apartment together. Kyle walked over to the strange door in the hallway, but found out quickly that the door was locked from the inside. Float through as ghost. Kyle used his ghostly powers to walk straight through the door, go inside. Kyle found himself in the room. He stashed the various items sent to him by fans. Check supernatural artifact. This is one of the many mysterious artifacts Kyle has been sent over the years. Smash artifact. Kyle began pounding the mysterious artifact with both fists. Within a few hours, it became dust. Oh.
Nice.
An ancient force trapped in the artifact is released and turned Kyle into a lizard demon. Back to room. Kyle, I'm a ghost lizard demon, dude. Kyle found himself in the room. He stashed the various items sent to him by fence. Back to hallway. We are going to leave the apartment. Kyle walked out into the middle of the road and took a long, pondering look around him. Visit the tech store. I was really hoping to find batteries in here. Kyle walked into the clean white tech store. He was greeted by Techno Jim, an elaborate cutout mascot with flashing lights. Steal Techno Jim. Quickly before the attendant could acknowledge him, Kyle grabbed Techno Jim by the shoulders. Finding that Techno Jim's cardboard feet were bolted to the ground, Kyle started to pull upwards forcefully. After several tugs, Techno Jim broke free, leaving 1 foot and 1 leg behind. Kyle glanced at the attendant, who was staring bewildered, and ran outside. Continue with day. Alright, we're gonna go dress really quick. Skunk pasties.
My body is ready.
Kyle chose the pasties made out of mashed skunk flesh. Getting the slimy garment. Just picture it for a second. Ghost lizard demon wearing mashed skunk pasties. That is a sight. Getting the slimy garments to stay proved difficult, so Kyle opted to stick them to his body with hot glue.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Kyle hurried to the set. Per normal, he ceased to be a ghost before he arrived. Sitting across from his host chair was a glamorous woman with an air of genuinity. As Kyle approached her, Rachel looked up and smiled. Rachel's smile turned to horror as she realized she was looking not at a human, but a lizard demon. Pandemonium ensued. Scripts went flying. Crew members ran in all directions. Lights were knocked over. As Kyle watched the chaos around him, his lizard demon form enveloped the last shred of his humanity. Kyle grew to a massive size. Within several minutes, he had demolished the now empty set. A local force of 5 spunky teenagers in brightly Power Rangers! A local force of 5 spunky teenagers in brightly colored apparel arrived at the scene to fight Kyle. As the teenagers swung at him with their spunky individualized weapons, Kyle pushed them over with his foot. Kyle's rampage of his studio ruins continued, but in another part of the city, a hero was rising up. In a dusty apartment on the top floor of an old skyscraper in the oldest part of town sat a large man named Frank. Few people in the world knew that Frank existed. Fewer knew his name. Frank was watching the local news. A story about the studio rampage was playing. Quickly, Frank got up from his chair. He opened a small hidden door behind a poster on his wall. Inside was an unbelievable mound of fat-ridden foods, unrefrigerated and fairly rotten. Frank began to consume the mound at a frightening rate. His body began to puff. Frank expanded faster and faster. With each minute, he burst through the roof. Within minutes, Frank was a towering behemoth. He rolled across the city. He rolled across the city, rebounding off buildings and getting cheers from onlookers. Dang it, game! Oh! Approaching Kyle, Frank gave a long, painful heave upward into the sky. To Kyle, the sky turned black. He looked upward to see the monstrous figure hurtling towards him. And in a moment, Kyle was completely enveloped in rubbery fat, unable to move or make noise. Frank was quite tired and passed out where he lay. Several years went by as Frank slumbered. As Kyle was held in Frank's warm, fatty embrace, his humanity began to return. When the first winter came, Frank's body recycled his fat for resources. Over many months, he shrank in size. Eventually, Kyle was human and Frank was thinned. They both walked away from the scene as new men. Neither realized how much time had passed. The end. Kyle prepared by being a lizard. Oh, I love this game. Flashlight. Kyle grabbed the flashlight, but after jiggling the switch, he found out it was out of batteries. We're gonna go ask our downstairs neighbor. Back to room. Exit bedroom hallway. Leave apartment. Visit downstairs neighbor. Kyle approached his downstairs neighbor's door and knocked. A middle-aged woman named Gabby answered the door. She looked at Kyle expectantly. Greet and start conversation. Good morning, neighbor, said Kyle cheerfully. Gabby looked at Kyle expectantly. Ask Gabby about Rachel. Gabby, asked Kyle, what are your true thoughts about Rachel May? Oh, Rachel, she's a wonderful woman. Her generous acts have inspired more good works than bad. Gabby trailed off, not meeting Kyle's eyes. After several uncomfortable minutes of silence, Kyle turned around to walk away. Dang it, all right, that didn't work. Move to kitchen. Eat crust off walls. Kyle started scraping the streaks of crud and spots of black mold off the walls of the fridge. After balling up the filth from the side of the fridge, Kyle bit into the crusty, moist ball.
Delicious. Finally, some good food.
After several minutes of chewing later, Kyle finished chewing and swallowing the ball whole. Casual. All right, now we're going to the place. We're going to see what happens when we haven't prepared and we don't choose. Blame we're not gonna blame Rachel this time. We're gonna do one of the other two options, see what happens. A moment after seating, the studio lights brightened and the cameras clicked on. Start broadcast. Good evening, everyone, said Kyle, looking at the camera. Welcome back to Stay Up Late with Kyle, introduced Rachel. Kyle vomited all the horrible things he had eaten earlier onto the floor. Rachel looked at Kyle concerned, gave a couple of coughs, and decided to play it cool and keep the show running. Kyle stopped and vomited again, then continued with a shaky voice. Tonight, I have the pleasure of interviewing the lovely Rachel May, who needs no more introduction. Kyle motioned to Rachel, who smiled and waved at the camera. Hello, Kyle, she said. I'm glad to be here. Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss, so we might as well dive right in, said Kyle. I'm very ready, said Rachel with a winning smile. In shock, Kyle realized he had never bothered to prepare any notes for the interview. Knowing he had the eyes of millions upon him, Kyle came up with a solution quickly. Run away! Kyle ejected from his seat and ran out of the studio as quickly as possible. After it became apparent that Kyle was not coming back, the producer ended the episode and everyone went home. Ha-ha! Kyle prepared by running away. I knew it! I'm so smart! Alright. Let's try Play Dead now. In a shock, Kyle realized he had never bothered to prepare any notes for the interview. Knowing he had the eyes of millions upon him, Kyle came up with a solution quickly. Play Dead! Kyle slumped in his seat and played dead. Kyle, what are you up to? Asked Rachel, still smiling. Kyle did not respond and hoped nobody would ask questions. Kyle, why are you pretending to be dead? Asked Rachel. I can see you breathing. Kyle held his breath.
I need that for sure!
The producer whispered to Rachel over the earpiece, give him a couple of slaps across the face and see if he wakes up. Rachel got up from her chair, walked to Kyle, and slapped him firmly across the face. Rachel slapped Kyle continuously, trying to get him to stop play acting. Other members of the crew stepped into flame and started slapping Kyle as well. Soon, Kyle was lost in the amassment of people around him, all slapping his face with both hands. The slapping went on for many hours. Kyle did not wake up. Eventually, Kyle did not pretend to be unconscious. Kyle prepared by dying. I want to try. What happens when we give ourselves amnesia? What happens when we pick bad interview notes? Yes! I've wanted to do this. I'm so glad I remembered. Is your mother a mother? Kyle wrote down his second question. Ever eaten a raw egg whole? Kyle wrote down his third question. I purposely ran over a puppy. Kyle wrote down his last questions. Are you guilty? Kyle ripped his page of notes out of the notebook and got up from the desk. Tonight, I have the pleasure of interviewing the lovely Rachel May, who needs no more introduction. Kyle motioned to Rachel, who smiled and waved at the camera. Hello, Kyle, she said. I'm glad to be here. Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss, so we might as well dive right in, said Kyle. I'm very ready, said Rachel with a winning smile. Kyle produced the notes he had taken earlier. Hey, Rachel, ever eaten a raw egg whole? Asked Kyle. Like shell in a hull? Asked Rachel. Kyle continued. I have, like, a lot. It's really bad, though, so sometimes I spit it back up. There was silence. But actually, it gets easier the more you do it, continued Kyle, without losing momentum. So don't start, I say. Rachel chose not to answer and look in another direction. Kyle asked another question. So, Kyle said, my mother's my mother. My mother's mother is her mother, and my mother's mother's mother, and many mothers have mother's mother's mother. Is your mother a mother? Rachel went to answer and stopped. I believe, she said eventually, that I should answer yes. Kyle asked another question. Hey, I ran over a puppy on purpose, said Kyle. Everyone in the studio froze. Kyle spread his hands out wide. It's a joke! He started laughing from the bottom of his stomach. Nobody laughed with Kyle. Several minutes later, he stopped laughing and moved on. Kyle asked another question. Rachel, are you guilty? Kyle threw his questions on the floor and stood up and pointed at her. Rachel's eyes twitched slightly. Guilty of what, dear Kyle? She smiled disingenuously. Ooh, guilty, spat Kyle, of your crimes. Rachel did not answer. Her eyelids both started twitching uncontrollably. Call police. Kyle pulled out his phone and dialed the police. Hello, police, said Kyle. I believe I found a criminal. Rachel began to run towards the exit. On her way, she swatted Kyle's phone out of his hand. Kyle struck out his leg. Rachel stumbled and crashed to the floor. But in a moment, she was on her feet. She drew a blunt weapon, seemingly out of thin air, and started to swing at Kyle. Kyle, having nothing to defend himself with, was smacked repeatedly on the head. So, Kyle lost consciousness several times, but somehow managed to remain upright. Rachel, thinking Kyle had not been incapacitated, continued her assault. Eventually, standing upright or not, it became apparent that Kyle had been adequately incapacitated. Rachel looked around slightly guilty and shuffled out the door. In the following days, Rachel disappeared from the country. Crime rates plummeted. Kyle was credited with cracking the case on a crime spree. Nevertheless, Rachel was never caught. Kyle let Rachel go. We can catch Rachel, I bet. We were wearing armor though, weren't we? Yeah, we were wearing armor. If we got the laser claimer, would that work? We'll find out next time, guys. I really like this. Guys, I'm gonna leave a link for this in the description below. It's free on Steam. Go check it out. It's wonderful. I really like this game. If you want to see the rest of the endings, hit that subscribe button because we will absolutely be doing those. If you enjoyed this and all of these endings, hit that like button. If you have any comments, suggestions, if you know how to get any endings, you can leave those in the description below. No spoilers, just like, you know, bring lard to the studio. That was enough. I don't know if I would have done that, so perfect. And if you share this video, any and all of that would make my heart go. This episode, there was too many good stories this time. Oh my goodness. As always, have an amazing rest of your day. And eat your heart and your blink. Bye.
Why? Kyle continued to vomit. Rachel. A local force of 5 spunky teenagers in Bradley. Power Rangers. he rolled across the city. Drink lard.